Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. My name's Dan Holman. I'm your host through this look at this last week's news. Here we are recording for the week of December 3rd. I've got my man, Rob Lawlisher from Road 55, pulled together some fabulous headlines for us this week. Rob?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, no complaints.
No complaints? No one would listen?
Complaints. Yeah, nobody does listen. You know?
Saw your lips moving, but I didn't hear a damn thing that you said. Yeah, lots of good headlines.
No, she said some stuff like, I don't listen, and I wasn't really listening.
What now? The doghouse continues for some, and we're always in there. We just kind of rolled through that big Black Friday weekend for everyone. Yeah. So I know we'll be chatting a little bit about that, but some of the headlines this week. Chatters put out a little story. It's just talking about flexing some of their creativity that, just prompted hey, here's some good points, or maybe here's some things I would do a little bit different. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts there. Great little story about a little brick and mortar shop, or I should say shops, where they're actually leveraging eBay to generate some additional sales there. So that's great to hear. And unfortunately, with the pandemic has come a lot of increased costs that retailers are facing. So we'll chat with that. And Dan, you're going to give us some great little lessons on the cost of purchase versus the cost of goods sold, or maybe not versus, but just making sure that you know the difference between the two. And a good little story where it talks about that the holiday season really was a footprint of the future. So a good discussion there. Okay, sir. Well, our first story, as I said, kind of off the wire. So we know it's a little self-serving, but we're in the business of breaking news now, Dan. So here we are coming hot off the wire. Chatters, just again, talking about different ways that they're trying to use creativity within this new safe retail world of engaging with their customers. When you read through this, Dan, what were some of the thoughts that came to mind?
I was intrigued with how well the article was written, and talked about this enormous creativity that they've created. Chatters, Red Deer, 115 or 117 stores in Canada. Good size retail chain. Yeah. And I read through the whole article thinking, gosh, this is so addy, so it's advertising driven. And I got to the bottom of the article and I saw who the author was. Okay, and it's the marketing manager for Chatters that actually had this thing land on Newswire, as a release. Right. But this article really didn't have a lot of creativity in it. They spoke about their level of creativity. And I think what was important there is that this is a great reminder for us and all of the things that we need to be doing in our store. They talked about how creative they've become in using QR codes and style sessions and product expositions and showcases. Those are all the things that we as independent retailers need to do, the actions that we need to put in place to achieve our holiday sales goal. And not just our holiday sales goal, but any sales goal. We have to be promotional, not sale, but rather shouting from the mountaintop. We've got to get out there. We've got to become top of mind. And that is about promoting ourselves, self-promotion. This is who we are. More importantly than who we are, this is why we exist. Discounting. They certainly had an ear on attracting a consumer with save 20 to 50% off. And yes, I agree, some discounting is absolutely required when used to drive categorical sales where we have gluts in inventory, where we have surpluses. Discounting is not the answer, not the only answer when trying to drive cash flow. And we need to be creative in how we do this. And we've talked before, Rob, about our holiday best practices and bundling products together to offer some incentive for the customer to buy it. This is not the age-old birthday sale, Memorial Day sale, Lincoln Day sale, Labor Day sale, anniversary sale. That's not the kind of thing I'm talking about. I'm talking about being promotional and getting yourself out there, and using discount to create cash has a negative impact, not positive impact on cash. That's really the two reasons that people have discounts and retailers have discounts in their stores. Number one is to drive cash. They think the answer to driving cash is to put all my product on sale, which of course, brings us closer and closer to the red line.
Right.
The other reason that we do it, that we drive discounts in our stores, is to correct mistakes that we've made. Discounts are bribery that's used to entice, to incentivize a customer to buy something that we bought erroneously, too much of, the wrong color of, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So, use your discounting strategically. And then the last thing that I took out of this article was just a great reminder to continue using video, use live, use style sessions, or deploy style sessions and products showcases. We need to talk to her.
Right on. Have you ever heard maybe it was you who said it to me? I can't remember right now, Dan, but I quite enjoyed it, that the observation that customers get addicted to discounts, they don't get addicted to free.
Right.
And of course, we're not giving everything for free, but when you get into that, say 50% off versus the buy it and I'll give you this item for free, they're not really going to expect that again. It's really in that one-off scenario. But if everything's always 50% off, all of a sudden it builds this expectation from the customer that this is the only way I'm going to engage with this retailer.
Right. And more importantly, when things are at 50% off, it gives the illusion to the consumer that we can afford to continue doing that.
Right.
Hey, if you sold it to me at 50 off yesterday, why can't you sell it to me at 50 off today? And this is the challenge with stores that are constantly promoting sale. Yeah. You're teaching your customer that you're a wealthy entity, that you've got cash, that you can afford to sell your product for less than the guy next door. And it's not the case. Yeah. It's not the case. And I will remind you that if something is free, how good should it be?
Yeah, definitely throws a little shade on the so what's wrong with this? Where we get a little suspect. Okay, into our next story here. And coming off the wire, another wire story for our podcast.
Hot off the wire.
Talking about eBay recognizing some different businesses who are leveraging the eBay platform within what they're doing. And this one I really enjoyed, the Dolly's Toys and Games in Toronto stories. These young brothers literally bought the shop that they had frequented forever. And all of a sudden you think sales tanked after. Why'd they go down? Oh, we were the best customer. But no, I'm joking. Anyways, they were recognized for their ability to tap into the eBay global marketplace, which really grew some sales channels for them to the point where it now supports 3 separate storefronts in the greater Toronto area. What were your thoughts here, Dan?
Hey, listen, Dolly's Toys and Games are doing things right. And I went and sort of did as much surfacey research as I could. I wanted to know how many followers do they have? How many transactions have they done? What's their SKU count look like? They're not unlike any other independent retailer out there. These guys were recognized as being, I believe it was a multi-integrated or an integrated channel in eBay's Canadian National Awards.
Integrated Entrepreneur of the Year. Yep.
Integrated entrepreneur, selling integrated on multiple channels. And these guys on eBay, I think they have 1,800 followers, or just about 1,800 followers, done a little over 31,000 transactions. These are brick and mortar retailers that have adopted this way of doing business. Certainly they discovered the global power of eBay, certainly more powerful than the big A when it comes to accessing the global market. And it's a great story about how through this pandemic, these guys have managed to grow their online presence, their online business by about 5 times or 500%. What are they doing that we can't do? These guys got 3 retail storefronts, 42,000 SKUs, and 1,800 followers, no different than any other retailer, independent retailer out there. Most of us have 1,800 followers, but they're generating business. And that's about us accessing every available channel. And I'll speak to, one of our partners at Canadian Retail Solutions, 24/7. 24/7 is an integration company. They take point of sale data and integrate it with marketplaces, i.e. Walmart, eBay, Amazon, Shopify, BigCommerce. Any place that you have the ability to go and sell, they integrate seamlessly with your POS system so that you maintain good data. You need to use this. Their platform is called Octopus. We love Octopus. Think about this octopus having these 10 reaching arms. Well, they can reach out to 8 or 10 different. I don't know how many octopuses have 10, Rob. Can you confirm that for me?
It's not 8, isn't it?
It's 8.
It's too early in the morning.
They can reach
Dan,
out to these they can reach out to these marketplaces simultaneously from their point of sale system. This is about having a fully integrated solution, and that's what these guys are doing. They're taking their POS storefront, their data, and pushing it out to multiple marketplaces, including eBay, where, like I say, they've done 31,000 transactions.
Would you say that this is also a bit of an example of that resale market? They're big in the world of magic and trading cards, and that obviously gets cracked open and you realize, oh, this can be resold. Is that an opportunity for more retailers, do you think, that where an eBay could come in?
I think so. I think our apparel retailers, it is resell. It is. Yep. It's been on my store. It's been on my show floor for 90 or 180 days. It's time for it to go to consignment. Right, it's time for it to go to some other platform to be sold. My consumer doesn't want it from me. And so this is the thing about these guys that, 42,000 SKUs. This is a lot of product crammed into small footprints. Yep. And this is about their ability to blow the dust off product that's not moving at their storefront and reaching out to a greater audience. Right. Not just the resale audience, but the brand new audience as well.
Well, you think from a connection point, like whatever started that relationship, if it was this one used, hard to find magic card, well, that started the relationship, and now you're on the radar in a whole bunch of other ways too. So I love it for that. Okay, whether you need an octopus or more, remember, folks, that this podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. Let them help you find your cutting-edge retail solution today. Visit retailbycrs.com. Sign up for the newsletter if you haven't yet. All kinds of great links coming through there. From the latest point-of-sale software to merchandise intelligence, open-to-buy plans, and more, they are here to help. Okay, sir. Well, the next story comes... retailinsider.com talking about, the increased responsibility of cleaning, and PPE has generated from this story about 24% of increased costs. What goes through your mind when you read this story, Dan?
It's challenging times. And Jane Domenico, senior VP, national sort of retail lead for Colliers Canada. We rely heavily on a lot of information from Colliers. They have their finger on the pulse, kind of really understand what's happening in and out of different retail spaces, whether that's the mall or, the standalone stores. So we just kind of read through this article and recognized that, hey, hang on a second, there's a ton of really relevant information here. And, challenging, yes, we're seeing increased costs. And there has been no makeup dollars made available to cover off these costs. Retailers today are faced with, being open. You've got to spend, if you're going to be open, you've got to spend this much money on additional, not just PPE for your team, but protective plexiglass for your stores, directional or wayfinding signs and arrows, junked up windows with mandatory signage, and the list goes on and on and on. There is no cash to compensate us for having to spend this extra dollars. And we're talking about nearly a 25% hike in operating expenses. And the reality is no retailer out there, zero, not one single retailer out there can afford a 25% hike in expenses. Hell, most of us are $200 from living in a van down by the frickin' river, man. Yeah. We cannot afford to consume more expenses. The fact is, only a very small percentage of retailers are in the double-digit profit space today. The best retailers are in the realm of 10, 12, or 12 to 15% net profit. So where does the increased cash come from to pay these expenses? You can only slice a dollar so many ways. And the dollar that's achieved from selling, can be split by purchases, profitability, and operating expenses. And, retailers, it's split by purchases, then profitability, then operating expense. I can repeat myself over and over again. I pay profit before I pay operating expense, or I'm not here tomorrow. And here we're faced with this challenge of, rather than how do we make the dollar bigger, most retailers will make this grave mistake of trying to cut their expenses, which will lead to their eventual closure. No business has ever been saved by cutting expenses alone. There is no one thing, Rob. You've talked about this. We've talked about this before. There is no silver bullet. There's not one thing that will save us. Yeah, we may need to alter our expenses, more of our expenses, to be better aligned with our revenue, i.e. convert them to variable expense that follows the flow of sales. We need to think about, how do we lower break-even point? Yes, but we also need to re-examine how to drive revenue. We need to increase our line pricing item, how much we charge for an item. We need to increase our average ticket, how much someone buys from us. And our capacity to overcome additional expense is driven purely by our propensity to drive sales, not cut expenses. And this is the mistake that many, many retailers will make. I'm sliding down the line. I'm closer and closer to red. I'm closer and closer to insolvency. I've got to cut expenses. And we'll spend hours and hours and hours mulling over how to cut an expense when that time should have been spent on how do we grow sales? What can I do today to generate a bigger sales dollar, thereby allowing me a larger expense?
Yeah. Do you think when you look at this story at 24%, do you feel a lot of that has been absorbed already? You talk about the plexiglass, that's a one-time thing versus that variable, like is supply getting so much better that costs hopefully will come down on there? Or do you believe, no, that's kind of the number that you're going to have to live with? To your point, you got to find a way to offset that cost going forward.
Yeah, it's not a one-time thing. Maybe installing plexiglass on your sales counter was a one-time thing. Yeah. And those that spent money to do it professionally, that they're never going to get that back. It's a leasehold improvement. Maybe they have the ability to amortize that expense over a period of time, but it's still cash that came out of their bank account. And it's an ongoing thing. The ongoing, Sandy misting my stores, or Peter Moore will love that, Sandy misting. He's got a company in Elora that does Sandy mist. Also owns 3 footwear stores. And he'll love the idea that we're out here promoting. You can mist your stores to protect them, which you can, but that comes at an expense. Yep. And this expense is not going away. This expense is not going away. The minute that we open our door to an increased expense, whether administered or not, it's there for good. It never goes away. It's like a fuel surcharge. Never goes away. It's a tax on doing business. It's another way for someone to dip into my pocket.
Okay, well, let's, I know our next topic talks about, the cost of purchase and cost of goods sold. So within that realm of understanding your cost, Dan, share with us a little bit more about the difference between the two.
Well, this really comes from our retail math videos. And if you're over on thewealthyretailer.com or retailbycrs.com or YouTube or wherever, you're going to find these videos that we've created. We talk about retail math. And one of the things that we really need to better understand as retailers is the difference between, my cost of purchase and my cost of good sold, or cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is a calculated number, not a real number. It's a white paper number. It is my opening inventory plus my purchases minus my ending inventory equals my cost of goods sold. And too many of us spend this energy on, my cost of goods sold, my gross margin, instead of what's my cash margin and my cost of purchase. Cost of purchase is how much I pay for inventory, how much I spend on inventory at a categorical or at a vendor level. If I buy $1,000 worth of inventory and I expect to keystone it, mark it up to 2 times, sell it for $2,000, I will generate $1,000 in cash margin. Versus, if I have an opening inventory of $1,000, I purchase another $1,000, and I end with $1,000, my cost of goods sold is $1,000. But that number is blended. It's not a real bank account number. The bank account number is cash margin. How much cash is left over to pay my profitability and operating expenses after I've bought and sold inventory. And so it's critically important for us to recognize the power of cash margin ahead of gross margin or cost of goods sold, especially in a holiday period or in a selling season. Cost of purchase needs to be the focus, not gross margin. Where's my cost of purchase? And if you can think about your IMU, my initial markup, if your initial markup is 50%, your cost of purchase can't be more than 50% or you're out of cash. Yeah. Again, you take this dollar and you split it in half. 50% of that, 50 cents, goes to pay for my purchases. It's how I buy inventory. The other 50% goes to profitability and operating expense. If my cost of purchase is greater than 50, that means that I have less to operate the business. And we've got to think in terms of cash accounting, cash in and out of our businesses on an ongoing basis, not just during this pandemic or holiday season. Your 12-week cash flow forecast should be cash accounting, money in and money out. No accumulated purchases, no accumulated expenses.
When you start this process with a new retail partner, whether it's via coaching or working with your POS systems, what's the process like, Dan? How long does it kind of take to day one? I don't really know, to all is it day 100? Holy moly! Like look at the difference this has made, and what kind of differences do you see your retailers enjoying?
Well, the differences are, the change to the business is instantaneous. The change to the bank account takes longer because we've got to funnel through inventory. Yep. We've got to change purchase habit and selling habit. And, lowering your markdowns, increasing your profitable sales happens over a period of time. But the change to the business is instantaneous. We have an objective look at data points that you do not look at every day. I can build an argument around truth, around data that we don't do today. Too often, retailers will say to me, they're my best vendor. Why are they your best vendor? Tell me what makes them your best vendor. Well, they're my number one. Yeah, you sell more of them because you buy more of them. But let's really look at their performance. Right. And retailers don't look at things that way. So when I talk about this change being instantaneous, we instantly start looking at our business differently. We instantly start to make decisions from a more educated, from a better educated place. And there is no, now I've got it. I learn something new every day, and I regurgitate a lot of the same messaging with my retail audience. I'm saying the same thing, but every day I'm learning something new about retail. There is no end to that education. I do not have my master's in retail. It's unattainable.
Just get your reps in. Yep. It's just a constant that, 10,000 hours.
You have to continue to invest in that education.
Totally.
Right? You're in the same position as every retailer out there. Every new advertising medium, every new content placeholder, every new basket to catch content, you've got to learn about. You've got to figure out how to make it work. Yeah. And this is the same as independent retail. This is the same as all retail, but I don't give a shit about I only care about the independent.
Screw those guys. Okay, talking about the retail landscape. This next story coming from work.com talks about the Shopify boss says the retail landscape has changed forever. Zero in on one part here. It says, what we're seeing is a tale of two retail worlds. On one side, you have those resistant retailers. They're looking to go back to the status quo. They're just waiting for this pandemic to be over so they can go back to doing things the way they always did. But that's not going to be the case. And on the other side, you have those that are resilient retailers and they are future-proofing their business. Dan, what are your thoughts here?
Well, you got to talk about Harley Finkelstein, don't you?
It keeps throwing me back to what was Jim Carrey, the pet detective? Wasn't that the kicker's name? Finkelstein? Laces out, man. Okay. Anyway,
so here we are, Harley Finkelstein. He's talking about Harley, right? CEO at Shopify. He's talking about the world of retail 2030 is here and here now. What old Harley's really talking is we have retail grandpas and grandmas versus the evolved retail children. Us old farts want to sit around on the porch and talk about the good old days. Take me back to simpler times. Remember when we could just open our front door and a customer would walk in and they would buy things from us. And that's what we want to talk about.
It's so good.
Remember when? Here, the retail children, just want to talk about tomorrow. They're obsessed with growth and how to achieve it. I mean, think about your own kids. They look forward, not backwards. How often does that young person in our life, not age, but young, talk about yesterday? They only talk about tomorrow. And this is the world of retail 2030, not retail 2020 or 21. We've said, hey, we've got to bring this thing forward. This is a retail revolution, man. The oppressed consumer is fighting back against today's restricted rules of engagement. This is why we're seeing 5 and 10x growth in our online performance. It's because of the oppressed consumer. It's not because we are this evolved society of retail. It's the consumer that's pushing us. It's the oppression that's forcing that consumer to shop differently. And how we respond is paramount. Totally. It dictates our future, right? This is why Shopify has seen increased sales of 113% or $30 billion in this quarter over Q2. In that Q3, these guys are in the midst of a revolution, and following every revolution in our history comes evolution. We need to spend more time on tomorrow and less energy on yesterday. Nobody cares about yesterday anymore, except us old farts in our rocking chairs that want to reminisce.
Yeah.
Right. This evolved retailer is saying, how do I capture her? How do I get in front of her? Where do I need to be? We can't fight back. There is no going back to the way it was.
Genie's out of the bottle.
It's out of the bottle. Consumers have figured out that they can shop with me online. They're going to do that because of its speed and convenience. Yeah. Hey, I've got 15 minutes now. I'm going to do some shopping at Bella Moss. Okay, why? Well, because I don't have the 30 minutes it takes me to drive there and back. Right? The thing that's in most demand from all of us, even at home in our pajamas, is time. We don't have the time. And speed and convenience is how retail is won. How can I make it fast and how can I make it easy and still give you superior experience? This is the evolution that we're faced with today. And the retailers that are waiting for things to go back, they died 9 months ago, man.
Well, and the challenge, coupled with the excitement of looking forward, is the ones who are just trying to go back to the way it was. It was within a very defined, smaller model. And you just described a few different ways to do business with people that really weren't there 6-9 months ago. And that's totally exciting, because you're opening up all these new channels, these new ways to connect with customers, to grow your business. That, we got 5 years of change inside of about a 6-month window,
right?
But it ain't going back that way.
It's never going to go back. And
sped up.
Yeah, Rob, I am never going to get on this kick that we don't need brick and mortar retail. The best online retailers in the world, the best e-commerce retailers in the world are opening brick and mortar stores. Your brick and mortar store is becoming an advertising medium. We still need to have human interaction. We're never going to the way of not interacting. We're always going to be going back to an eventual, brick and mortar store. But those of us that have the ability to capture sales outside of our four walls are the ones that are going to be here for decades to come. The ones that are relying on door swings, we're going to be challenged. And listen, I'm this guy. I have evolved. Ask me a year ago.
100%.
I'd have shot you for trying to close my brick and mortar store to go online, but we've evolved. And that's part of the point of recognition that's required here. We're in an evolutionary period. This evolutionary period is forced on us by revolution. I mean, one of the greatest things in business is the ability, to face revolution with evolution, to evolve from where we are. This is what we need to do.
Yep, here we are. Roll with it.
Roll with it. Figure shit out. That's what you do.
I know. Again, back to, I know it can be frustrating when you're trying, I wish is that I said before, an old newspaper guy. Yeah, right. I wish there was like one media for everyone to go to. I'll put my one ad there, and that's that. Right? But the excitement of all the different channels that you can really tap into, I think I would, move that frustration into that excitement category, harness that, and look for those different ways. And I really do believe you're going to find some ways to do business that just were never there before, and present a great opportunity for growth. Okay, Dan, well, lots of good stories we had this week. If you haven't yet, folks, head to retailbycrs.com, sign up for the newsletter. We'll have the links to these stories that we talked about. In addition, a few more things. There was one about, it was the grocery anchored retail plazas that have recently topped the Best Buy list in this Altus Group survey. So that was kind of interesting to take a peek there. East Coast coming out of the Black Friday. It's kind of a muted weekend for them. They felt it was mirrored across the country. Story there. And a story about a boutique chain. These they're going a lot of, express versions of their chain, rapidly expanding, but wrapped around that word boutique. And I thought that was a great little read. Hey, politicians, this story is not going away. These challenges of big stores open, small businesses not being able to open, and ripping a line out of this one story. You will be remembered for your approach the next few months. This story will talk about either your action or your inaction, and it will forever be tattooed on your political fortunes. So I'm sure it's a story that still affects a whole bunch of people out there. So you might want to dive in there. Great stuff this week, Dan.
Yeah, it was really good. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Guys, head over to your favorite podcast platform. If you're watching this on YouTube or on one of our social channels, head over to your favorite podcast platform, click subscribe or follow or like, and stay connected with us every week as we bring, we beat up some of the headlines and talk about the things that are most important to you, the independent retailer, the things that you can do to move your business to that next level.
Right on. Thanks, Dan.
Happy retailing.